Today's episode is brought to you by FreedomProject Academy. Looking for a K-12 classical online school built on Judeo-Christian values? FPA is enrolling now for the fall. Request your free information packet at freedomforschool.com. That's freedom, F-O-R, school.com.
It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke program. Before we get started, just as usual, hit that share button so we can educate more patriots around the world and the country. Today we start in Richmond, California, where a biology teacher at an area charter school has been arrested for allegedly molesting 7 of her students over the course of just 3 months in employment. This is, you got to wonder at what point people are going to wake up to the fact that if you have a highly sexualized curriculum and a highly sexualized group of teachers who see pushing sex on younger and younger kids as a very serious and necessary thing, and you have all of these curricular instruments that have grown up, these books that are feeding sex to little kids, you just wonder when it's going to dawn on even more people, like it's dawned on the governor of Florida, who rightly figured out that this is a big mistake. When you're bringing very advanced sexual discussions and images and ideas into classroom with kids that are way, way, way too young to understand them, and you've got teachers who aren't really taught anything else than this kind of progressive education, don't understand anything more than what they've been unleashed to teach kids about. Aren't you going to have these things more and more often?
So the teacher we're talking about here is Anessa Page Gower. She's 35 years old, and she is now facing 29 separate criminal counts over this alleged abuse, which, again, took place over only 3.5 months of employment at Making Waves Academy, and that's in Richmond in California. And she was just, a biology teacher, and it was with 7 different students. So take a look at the news report.
35-year-old Anessa Page Gower is in custody, charged with 29 counts of sex crimes involving teenagers at Making Waves Academy, a charter school in Richmond. Gower briefly taught biology there from late October to early February of this year. Her sex crimes allegedly took place during those 3.5 months of employment, according to the Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office.
Multiple charges, some sex-related, some social media communications-related, and inappropriate contact with minors.
Investigators say they executed search warrants to access electronic data exchanged between Gower and students and found she shared sexually graphic photos with them over social media. This isn't the first teacher at Making Waves Academy to be charged with sexually violating students. In 2017, Ronald Ginto, a math and science teacher at the middle school, was convicted of molesting 15 of his students. Most of them were 11 and 12-year-old boys in the school's youth program that he ran. He is serving a 931-year sentence.
So he's not even, Gower is not the first to have this happen. You just saw a 931-year sentence, which is rightfully just there. And now she's going in with 29 counts from 7 different students. And what I'm trying to still figure out is it said her employment, she was there, it was over the course of 3.5 months from October through February. And so Christmas breaks in there, a little bit of Thanksgiving breaks. Was it day 1? Instead of saying, here's the syllabus, what we're going to learn about, it's who are my victims going to be? I mean, it's just, I never understand any of this when it's the teacher-student relationship, but I just, how did her brain just work right away?
I go back to my opening vault here. You think about some of the things we've shown on this show that has been shown to little kids. Think of some of the books. Think of some of the graphic exercises. We did a story just last week, in Australia, where little 10-year-old girls, as part of the curriculum, were told to go home, talk to their fathers about their father's erections and their father's ejaculations. This actually happened. And so when you think about the kind of out of place, age inappropriate, graphic, let's call it what it is, pornographic stuff that we're training kids and young kids in particular, I could see how easily, to tell you the truth, a confused and sexually deviant individual with all of that classroom time, all of that access to children, I could completely see why it's not the pedophiles who took down the walls. It's not the pedophiles who removed the supervision. It's not the pedophiles who torched morality and decency in the classrooms. It's the public school system.
Now, the good news is that Gower was taken into custody at the Sacramento International Airport when she returned from a little vacation in Hawaii. That was probably now, hopefully, the last vacation she will ever have taken. And so she is currently in custody in Richmond, and she is facing the multiple child molestation charges. And, well, she was fired when the allegations came to light. So there's just a glimmer of hope, a glimmer of positive in a story like this.
I suppose it's great that they fired her rather than defended her in the name of the curriculum. But I'll bet you, I'll bet you a bucket full of nickels that she does not get 931 years in prison.
With all the censorship taking place on social media platforms, we've made it easy to keep up with your favorite content. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app in your app store. Get access to 18 new videos a week, plus thousands of archived shows, lecture series, and educational animations. Download the Freedom Project Media app on your Apple TV, Roku, tablet, or phone, and make sure you allow for notifications to keep you informed.
You know, as dorm life, we already know is a potential pitfall. And now the University of Texas decided to say, you know what? It may be a pitfall, but we're going to up our ante. So the University of Texas, Austin specifically, they're going to have the males and the females share dorm rooms. Yes, they are. The university announced a 2-year pilot program. It will suspend the rules of the same-sex housing. It was announced on the Division of Student Affairs Housing and Dining webpage, and it explains, to further cultivate an inclusive and welcoming living and learning environment, University Housing and Dining is now offering a new roommate option for students living in certain on-campus residence halls next fall. The Family and Friend Roommate. Oh, that sounds so pleasant. The Family and Friend Roommate option allows enrolled students to select any UT Austin student who is already currently enrolled at the university as a roommate. What could go wrong with this situation? Probably nothing.
You mean you can have senior boys in with freshman girls, right? You remember back when we cared about women a couple years ago? Remember back a couple years ago when hashtag Me Too was founded? I mean, we now realize it was only made up to go after white male Supreme Court justices. In retrospect, Alyssa Milano has proved to us that nobody really cared, that we were trying to get rid of Kavanaugh, we were trying to get rid of Trump's nominees generally, and it was never out clearly. Hashtag Me Too was never meant for anybody else. But I remember a couple years ago when we were taking that seriously, and we kept hearing about how there were so many really lyingly inflated statements on college campuses, like one out of every 5 young girls will be raped on a college campus. That the statistical numbers of rapes on college campuses was way, way, way higher than the general population. None of that's true, but they were saying it. They were talking about how dangerous rape culture was on college campuses. And now they're in the name of let's again forget women are women. Let's pretend that women don't exist. Let's pretend that rape is not a problem and sexual assault's not a big deal. Let's let boys and girls share the same dorm rooms where they sleep, where they dress, where they change. UT Austin, again, reminding us that when you hear liberals talk about women and make up things like hashtag Me Too, they really don't believe it.
No, UT Austin's not the only university in Texas to be doing this. They're just following what UT Dallas and UT San Antonio and how they've already included the gender-inclusive housing options. Now, specifically with UT Austin, under the section where it says, who can I select as a roommate? I wonder. The answer is the Family and Friend Roommate option allows enrolled students to select any student who is also currently enrolled at the university as a roommate, regardless of their gender, sexual, or gender identity.
Does that include grad students?
Gender identity.
So again, could a freshman, first-year, 18-year-old freshman have a PhD candidate as his roommate?
They're currently enrolled, so maybe it would only be sophomores. I don't know when the timing of all this. I didn't look into that part. But now, if you are a couple or have children, we do provide this option at our Breakin' Ridge apartments, just so you want to go over there. But as Milan Kursky, the UT's senior director for residence life, said, the name family and friends seems fitting because that's who we're focusing on. Students who may be having maybe a family member, maybe a close friend, and if they don't have a friend, we have a roommate matching program that helps them find someone they will be interested in. And there are the key words, everyone.
Interested in.
Interested in. Now, according to UT Austin, this option helps enhance our residents' sense of belonging and facilitates a smoother transition to college life by increasing the options for selecting a roommate. By promoting student values around choice and decision making, this option reinforces the opportunity for residents to achieve the goals of self-management, community engagement, and cultural competency. UHD is offering this option during a two-year pilot and will review future implementation thereafter. But here's the kicker. If you decide, okay, I'm going to do this family and friend program, and then you decide to opt out of it, you will have to live with another UT Austin student with the same university gender marker is the terms they're using, gender marker. So if you just figure out that while living with a 21-year-old man, even though why are they still living in the dorms? I don't know. And you're a 19-year-old female, and wow, maybe that was a bad choice. Darn it, you're going to have to go live with a girl now. So
I think they just ought to surrender entirely and turn the selection for a roommate on the dorm thing, turn it into another one of these sex dating sites. Let's just call it what it is. We're going to take the girls, take the boys, take the transgenders, take the furries and the bestiality freaks and the pedophiles, put them in one big computer base, and everyone's going to list their sexual programs, their sexual fetishes, their sexual experience, what they're looking for in a good time, and then we're going to use the computer to crunch the numbers, and we'll start putting people in the same dorm room. Or hell, if you're into the orgy scene, put 12 or 13 people in a room, and it can be all about your sex all the time.
Now, what's interesting to this is they asked Adrienne Hunter, who is a UT Austin senior and transgender woman, the thoughts about this thing. And Adrienne said that it's needed for those struggling with gender issues. To have the burden on the student to do this outreach instead of having this system was something a lot of students didn't feel comfortable with. And that statement right there from Adrienne shows you everything that Adrienne thinks the college system should be.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on all items at MyPillow.com when you use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Support this show by supporting a great American company.
It is already getting to be that time of year where we're going to be talking about graduations and how obviously we can't just have one graduation ceremony at a university. We can't just have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Why not have every graduation ceremony that represents every single person for whatever it is? Again, there's still not a left-handed person's graduation ceremony or a vertically challenged person's ceremony, but I digress. We do at least have the lavender ceremony, back in full frontal on it. The lavender ceremony, it's back at more than 100 universities this year again. And obviously, for those who weren't around last year when we talked about it, it is the LGBTQ plus students' chance, apparently only chance to be unique on a college campus, so they get their own little ceremony. And at the University of South Florida, they claim that the Lavender graduation is an event where the USF students, undergrad, graduate, and professional, who self-identify as LGBTQ+, and have graduated or are planning to graduate in this, academic year, they have the opportunity to be recognized in an additional special ceremony apart from the main USF commencement. And they're holding it right now in April, long before even graduation ceremonies are taking place. Now, we know the ceremony, it's been coined Lavender Ceremony across the nation because lavender is a combination of the pink triangles that gay men had to wear and the black triangles that lesbian women had to wear in concentration camps in Nazi Germany, according to the Human Rights Campaign. And the first ceremony for all of this was back in 1995.
And this requires segregation for what reason? Why is it? We just talked about this, right? That look at the University of Texas Austin in the previous the segment we just did. Everything has to be geared for everybody to have massive and unending inclusivity. So why are we allowing people to be uninclusive? Well, I mean, the entire ethos of the social justice revolution is nobody can be excluded ever at any time. And now we're allowing particular groups, privileged groups like the LGBTQ, to just say, no, thank you. We're going to not exclude you if you're straight, or more damning, you're cisgendered. We're not going to include you. So why is it now that you've created a system whose entire ethos, the only purpose that it exists, is to promote inclusivity? And by so doing, you allow the most, in your minds, marginalized groups to engage in radical acts of exclusion and what we used to call, back when we had common sense, segregation. This is the way to racial harmony. This is the way to racial justice, right? To drag, how long before, can't eat tuna fish sandwiches at the same lunch counter with a straight dude? That buses now are going to, we got to have those cisgender sit in the back, where we're going to have the same kind of segregation that took us a long time to get rid of, and liberals in particular were so proud that we burnt it to the ground in the 1960s, brought back, resurrected, phoenix-like, by those same liberals, because now they feel the power to punish people they don't like. And let's call that what it is. You're not just gently separating from groups. You don't like those people. You don't like straight people. They don't get you. They don't understand you. They created a racist and transphobic, homophobic system to persecute you. So you don't like them, so you're going to have your own day. Call it what it is. Gay people, stand up, LGBTQ plus proud, and say it. They're creepy and they're not normal, those straight people, and we're going to have our own segregated graduations.
Hi everyone, I'm David Fiorazzo. Well, education content is always the primary focus of the Dr. Duke Show. Before we go, let's leave you with a few other stories worthy of a comment or two. We start in crazy California, where Democrats want to force companies to pay their employees more for less work. That's right, a bill by Democratic state reps Cristina Garcia and Evan Lowe would require companies with 500 employees or more to change the definition of a work week from 40 hours to 32 hours. The bill is AB 2932, would mandate that employees receive the same amount of compensation for working 8 hours less a week. I want that deal. Any employee that works more than 32 hours would receive time and a half pay, and anyone working over 40 hours would require double pay. As far as unions are concerned, there would be an exemption for companies that have a collective bargaining agreement with workers, of course. More than 2,600 California companies and more than 3.6 million workers would be impacted by the bill. So Duke and Katie, I got to ask you about this. It sounds like typical California, right? They have all this money. What's next?
Well, basically, they're making it like what has been happening in California. Make it not business friendly, and so now the businesses will just move out. So Texas, get ready for some more businesses coming your way.
Yeah, I mean, and so it would be very interesting for me to see what I would do. I'd work the 40 hours. I'd try to work 45 hours and get the double pay. Double pay for 5 extra hours? Are you kidding me?
But when you apply California tax law to it, you're basically
That's my
going
point.
to get
That's my point. How else could you survive unless you're working 3 times overtime just to pay your taxes?
All right, well, let me ask you this. Are you a happy person? If so, you're in luck, because for a mere 17 grand, you can get a degree in happiness studies. Yes, I'm not sure if Joel Osteen is part of this, but no, I'm not kidding. Centenary University, Dr. Duke will correct me if I got that wrong, but it's a private institution in New Jersey affiliated with the Methodist Church. It's now offering students an online master's degree in happiness studies. As part of the program, students are required to attend a retreat where they will focus on meditation, goal setting, yoga, physical exercise, breath work, different forms of journaling, and reminders. So the Happiness Studies program is run by Tal Ben-Shahar, a certified yoga instructor, and kicks off October 24th if you want to get happy. Finally, let's end with a little patriotism. A Young Americans for Freedom, or YAF chapter in St. Louis, Missouri, tried to bring in a little Americana into the classroom, and they were swiftly shut down. Here's what happened. Conservatives at St. Louis University recently offered to fund the installation of American flags in every classroom. Unfortunately, they were denied. In a statement by Student Government Facilities and Services Chair Eric Stayberg, while there is nothing wrong with doing something different, in my opinion, this project lacks a necessary motive. Gosh. In thinking about whether or not to support this project, I couldn't answer the question of why this is needed, and in light of that, I fail to see why this is necessary. So at the end of the day, if it's not one of the dozen kinds of pride flags proudly hung in kindergarten classrooms around the country, it doesn't belong on a college campus because the American flag and patriotism, quote, lacks the necessary motive. Duke and Katie, I know you have a lot to say about this. What do you great patriots think about American flags on college campuses?
I put the two stories together. Notice how you've got a group of professors at a university thinking they know what happiness is.
That's right.
And it's a bunch of busy work and breathing exercises.
Yes.
How arrogant is that?
Yes.
And number two, you got the clown show administrator basically saying, because I don't see any need for an American flag, this generous offer is going to be ignored because you haven't given me what I need.
Well, I say get rid of the American flag. You don't need that. Get rid of the chalkboard. You don't need that. Get rid of everything that is in a classroom, because on college campuses, if they're just spending their time meditating and doing yoga and all that, they need nothing in the room. So everything should be gone. And then, hey, get your happiness degree, I guess, in St. Louis or wherever.
We can get Pharrell to be the commencement speaker.
Don't worry, be happy. Well, that wraps up this segment. More to come next time.
For all of us at Freedom Project, stay educated, my friends.